just a little bit over 500 bucks for an RTX 5060 gaming PC with DDR5 and basically latest gen Ryzen, not really latest gen, but based on the latest gen AM5 platform. Well, this is actually doable. And if you're thinking, hey, it's not possible because the GPU takes up for basically half the budget. Well, it is actually true. GPU does take up for around half the budget, and we spent the other half very well. So with that said, welcome back at Automotive PSUs, and here we are with yet another budget build guide for how you can build the best budget build in 2025. And this is real budget. Now, if you want to spend even less, I have a guide with a 4060, where if you buy a 4060 used, you can save another 100 bucks compared to a 5060. You can actually keep your budget under 500 bucks while still having DDR5 and everything. If you want to go even lower, I got you covered. You could go AM4 still, but I think it's not worth it because you're on that platform. You would have to go with an X3D CPU on AM4, and even for that, we have a video on the channel, you have to look for it, but it's there. Back on topic. How did I do this? Well, let's get started. First of all, I got the cheapest possible motherboard in the whole of AliExpress, and it's this Huanansi B650MD Pro. Now, this motherboard is 80 bucks starting price, and we'll discuss how we got it lower later. So 80 bucks for the motherboard. We then got a Ryzen 7 7700, which is the best value CPU at the moment, and it is on AliExpress for 165 bucks as I'm speaking. So add those two up, we are at 240. We got 32 gigabytes of DDR5, 6000 megahertz RAM with actual decent latency, and it's this Juho RAM. Now, I had never heard of this brand before, and I just bought it because it was the cheapest one I could find. 70 bucks initial price for it, which means we are at 315 bucks for the combo. Now, this RAM actually surprised me, okay, because the motherboard, we have the full review on the channel. The RAM actually looks amazing. Like, the RGB is really good, it feels very premium, it is just not just full white sticks, they actually have some design to them, and the XMP works out of the box at 6000 megahertz. They have Hynix chips, so it's actually good RAM sold for really cheap. Now, we went overboard because usually I would recommend you get a stock cooler for this kind of build, but we got a Cryorig C5 CU, and the CU version is basically the copper version. This is a brand new low profile cooler from Cryorig. These are very cheap, but if you're on a strict budget, you don't have to buy one of these. You can just go with a stock cooler and keep the budget in the 500s. But basically, the CU version is just fully copper plated on the back, and this one is just a slot-in cooler, takes 5 minutes to install, works on Intel, works on AMD. It is great. We also had the non-CU version to test, and it is fully recommended from me. NVMe drive. I got this ThickWatt Gen 4 drive, and it promises 6,000-7,000 megabytes per second speed, and it actually does it, and I paid 50 bucks for it, which is crazy. It's also crazy that the motherboard does 7,000 megahertz on the slot. And surprisingly, even without a heatsink, it doesn't overheat. Get one of these, but really, if you're on a tight budget, just get a Kingston NV3. You can buy it worldwide for around 50 bucks for 1 terabyte. Or if you're on a really tight budget, maybe get a Gen 3 drive, because Gen 3 is all you need for gaming, really. Gen 4 is more for moving files around and snappier windows, but it's not really needed. Now, we put all of this in a 40 bucks case. This is a no brand case. It actually has a brand, but I can't remember it. And I will put a link to all the components in the description. But basically, this case, depending on where you live, it's going to be called differently. Now, this one has a very nice wooden insert on the side, but still, this is a case which is bought basically in Asia, and then companies rebrand it and they call it whatever. I could make the Automotive PSUs case and sell it, and it's the same case. So just look for a cheap aquarium case with 3 fans. These ones are reverse blade, they are RGB. The RGB looks bad, but it still looks somewhat decent, okay? And it's gonna keep the budget very low. Also, if you're on a very tight budget, you don't really need a case. You can just build everything on a box and you're gonna be fine. So the case is the least of your concerns. What should be a concern of yours is the power supply. And now I've gotten a Mars Gaming MP3 550. And now that's a tough power supply to use, but listen, Mars Gaming on the low end, their power supplies are not the best, but they work. Trick is, if the PSU is 550, just pretend it's 350 watts, and then it's going to be a very good 350. So this one has the 6-pin, which we need for a graphics card. Another trick is, if the power supply doesn't have the 8-pin connector, you probably don't want to put a GPU in it. Trust me, not the modern PSUs. If you had an old power supply with no 6-pin, they were still good. You just slot a SATA adapter to it, you can use it. Maybe it's better if you use a Modix adapter, but anyways. But these new ones, if they make it without a 6-pin, trust me, you don't want to use a GPU. How much did I pay for the power supply? 25 bucks. Yes, and the PSU is not exploding, and hopefully it won't do it for a while. And I bought it brand new on Amazon as well. But Mars Gaming is not really available worldwide. I'm in Italy, so I can buy them. Just get a cheap PSU. You can also buy on Best Buy or those places for cheap some used, like new PSUs. They're gonna be fine. And then I bought the 5060. Now I got the Ventus 2X just because it's a cheap model I could find here, and I paid 250 bucks for it, and I bought it brand new. But you should buy used, because I see a lot of people already selling them used, and you can buy one used for around 230 bucks. Don't pay more, because you can buy it brand new for 20 bucks more, maybe 30 bucks more. I got mine on discount. But what's the point of going used if you don't get at least 30 or 40 bucks in your pocket? You know, no point, just buy brand new. So with that said, if you've been following up the count, you may be saying, okay, but we are a little bit over the budget you said. That's because all the prices I told you of motherboard, CPU, RAM, everything basically from China, from AliExpress, they are website prices, which means you can then utilize the way AliExpress works, and you can use coupons, discount code, all those things to lower the price a lot. So first of all, if you have a brand new account, stuff is cheaper. So if you know, I'm not saying you should make a brand new account even if you have an older one, but I'm just saying stuff is cheaper, you know? AliExpress does recurring promotions. I'm not in any way, by the way, sponsored, you know? Also because they probably wouldn't like what I'm about to say, but what you want to do is you don't want to buy when there are no discounts. Basically, you can put everything in the cart and then wait. And every now and then, they're gonna make a sale of some kind. Like we had Summer Ends sale. They're always called differently, but they're always the same. What you want to do is, as soon as there is a sale, they're gonna give you a coupon code. You can go on the website and actually copy it. And depending on the amount you spend, it's gonna be a percentage of it. It's usually at least 10%. So in my case, it was 15% because I also utilized the coins. If you have like the app, they give you some coins, which are basically free money, whatever. Basically, if you play around with AliExpress a little bit, you can get 15% discount for sure, even if you don't know what you're doing. 10% everyone gets. Just don't buy if there is no discount. Of all my AliExpress parts, I paid 15% less, which is about 50 bucks less. And this is how I made the budget, which I told you in the beginning. So this is not a trick. All of you guys can do it worldwide. So just make sure you shop wisely. Of course, if you want to replicate this, make it better, you can buy the RAM on the used market. You can go with a stock cooler, buy the SSD, buy a Gen 3 drive, and then you can keep the budget even lower. The core point is this motherboard or any of the AliExpress motherboards I reviewed are great. So just grab one of these with the Ryzen 7 from AliExpress or from the used market locally where you live. 7700 is great still because Gen 4 PCIe support, DDR5, it has all the new features, but it's cheap. You can basically slap everything into a half-decent case and you're good to go. Now, you guys want to know what the benchmarks are like, so I got you. First of all, CPU-Z benchmark, as you can see, the Ryzen is definitely doing its job, even without the XMP enabled and even without tweaking. If you follow this channel, you will know you can get 15 to 20% free performance by simply changing a few BIOS settings. It's called undervolting and RAM tuning. So do that and it's 15% faster. Then we did a simple synthetic run on Firestrike, and as you can see, PC is performing great, which tells us that it's gonna be great for gaming later. Now the CPU temperatures are very much under control. I ran a quick Prime95 test, and even after an hour on stock settings, we're still running well, which shows that this query cooler is very good. It's recommended. And then finally, once we ended the synthetics, gaming. Now Apex Legends, you can play comfortably at 165 Hz because this PC does on average around 180 FPS. Actually, it's gonna do over 200 FPS, but not very stable, so that's why I say around 180. It's also what the average from Riva Tuner comes out to be, which is great result because Apex Legends new season is not the lightest. And then in Warzone, we are getting surprisingly even more FPS, but it was just the area I was testing in, honestly. You can expect to game easily at over 144 Hz at 1080p on Warzone. If you want to push the 200 frames, you're gonna have to do some overclocking and undervolting. With overclocking and undervolting, you can easily get over 200 FPS in Apex, and in Warzone you can get very close. So the performance in games is very good. If you're getting these numbers on Apex and Warzone, of course you can play any single player title, because you also have 5060 with frame generation. You can do all the brand new AI stuff, which is good. And of course you can play lighter titles, more competitive titles, fine, because the CPU has a lot of grunt to push the CPU further. So this is my build for this month. Let me know if you like it, let me know if you're gonna replicate it, and if you do, if you like it, and if you think I can improve it or make some changes, please drop a comment down below and let me know. If you watched the video this far and you want to really help the channel, let me buy more computers like this, drop a like, subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye bye.